It's All-Star Weekend, but the trade deadline is passed, so Patrick and I are going over which teams are our contenders, which teams are our pretenders, our first impressions of the Luka-Lakers. Let's get into foul trouble.
How are you doing, James? I feel like the NBA is low-key hotter than ever right now.
Yeah, I think this is the hottest I feel like the NBA's been in like a couple of years, I'm not going to lie. It's how it feels. I feel like everyone's like super back into basketball right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to like pinpoint even a time where I felt like there was this much regular season pre-All-Star break heat, and I can't really think of a time in at least post-pandemic that it's been like this.
Yeah, I mean, ESPN was smart to keep like scheduling every Lakers game for national because I saw the first Luka game had like 2 million viewers, which I think was some sort of viewership record for like a random regular season game.
Do you think, obviously, it has a lot to do with the Luka to the Lakers trade? It doesn't get like more high profile than that. But do you think it has something to do with how kind of boringly predictable and then boring the Super Bowl was?
Well, I don't think the Super Bowl is predictable and that the Eagles blowing out the Chiefs. I don't know if everyone saw that coming.
More just the matchup.
The matchup. I do think the NFL had a really strong season, but it came to like a grinding halt at the very end. I felt like it really peaked in that conference championship for them. But also, I feel like the Luka trade is such a seismic event in the sports world that it's like everyone is still kind of wanting like give us more details about why this happened, about how this happened. I feel like I'm still not done, trying to swallow every piece of information I can find about it.
And there's like two kingdoms that are like in like complete disarray in Dallas, and then I feel like more people have talked about like fan transfer from Dallas to LA than I think in any trade that I have ever heard about in any like professional sport. I've never heard like beat reporters talk about like, yeah, like the people of Dallas, they're just Lakers fans now. Like you don't hear people talk about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is weird. It is funny. I'm explaining it, to my girlfriend who's all pretty new to this NBA world. I'm like, yeah, so Dallas has a statue of a player and it says loyalty never fades on it, but then they traded Luka and like it's like there's all this like palace intrigue behind it,
And that player came to
support
debut
Luka instead of supporting the Mavs debut.
Yeah. No, that was such a like chef's kiss. I was listening to the Hoop Collective while I was driving in today, and Brian Windhorst said that with Dirk at that game was the Mavericks, like I think like I can't remember exactly his role, but it was like head of PR or something. He was the head of PR for the Mavericks for like years and years and years and years, and he just left at the end of last season, and then he comes with Dirk to that game in LA. It just speaks to the, I don't know, dysfunction of the Mavericks organization and like the year from hell that the Mavericks fans are having. I think that hasn't even been like really talked about as much as like without the Luka trade. That is like the most insane variable to put into anything. But already the Mavericks fans had to deal with Luka being out pretty much all season. Derek Lively, their second-year center, having like a very scary injury. And now Daniel Gafford got hurt. And then fucking Anthony Davis gets hurt in his first goddamn game.
Yeah, it feels bad that Anthony Davis's injury feels more like it's the product of karma than anything Anthony Davis did, since he's innocent in all this.
Karma to someone else.
Yeah, it's like the baggage of the organization just had to hit AD. And I know it's definitely frustrating for Mavs fans to be like, well, if you thought Luka was injury prone, why'd you trade for AD? But AD hasn't been injury prone in like 2 years. And that's, I think, what's kind of sad about this is that first game, it happens like that.
Yeah.
He kind of was transitioning away from being an injury prone player. Okay. So it seems like we're starting this with our Luka-Lakers impressions, or do we want to kind of talk about that when we get to Contenders, Pretenders, or should we just jump into it?
Let's just jump into it. It feels like a train that cannot be stopped. We're barreling towards talking about the Lakers, so why don't we just freaking do it? They have played 2 games against the Utah Jazz.
A blowout win, a blowout loss.
Which was just, I don't know. I was so high. I feel like I need to pull up exactly what I texted you when I was watching that blowout.
Yeah, so I guess let's start with the blowout win, which I think everyone saw. So maybe the loss is a little bit weirder to talk about because Jackson Hayes leaves with a contusion, and obviously our big concern with the Lakers when we talked about them in the first place is like you need more rim protection, you need a center. At least it seemed like okay with LeBron and Luka out there, you're gonna turn Jackson Hayes into a viable offensive lob threat. Still worried about the defense. Still worried about how much he fouls. But
literally, first 2 plays of the game,
yeah,
it was a lob from LeBron and then a lob from Luka to Jackson Hayes.
Yeah, and I think we saw the best version of this pairing where it's like Luka finds LeBron on a cut, LeBron finds the lob threat, and I think that's where the synergy happens between these two heliocentric players. I feel like in the Utah game we saw a little bit more of like your turn, my turn, which I actually don't think is the worst thing ever with these two, but it is a little bit hard to evaluate when there's no DFS, there's no Gabe Vincent, who's actually become an important player in the rotation, and there's no Hayes for like pretty much the whole game. But I do think it's concerning though that like, you don't have Gabe, you don't have DFS. Like, yes, they're gonna play big minutes in the playoffs because they're more defensive, but I think it is worried that Utah can get like, oh hey, if you just run really fast, you can backdoor Dalton Connect whenever you want.
Yeah,
and I think that's kind of the problem with Dalton Connect now that he's kind of come back is like he is such a defensive liability guarding shiftier players, and Alex Len, I know this has something to do with Luka specifically, but Alex Len is just not gonna play in the playoffs, right? He's just not.
I don't know. I mean, that's the kind of that's so during when I'm watching the first half of the first game with Luka, I text you, okay, I see it. The Lakers are gonna win the West. And then I watched the game last night and I'm thinking, okay, like I remember all of the worries I had. Like, you just look at Utah's box score from last night. Walker Kessler, 8 for 8. They had like 5 guys with over 7 rebounds in their starting lineup, which the Jazz are not that kind of like big, just dominating team. And then, yeah, Alex Len, of course, it was a really weird, like Alex Len joined the team yesterday. And he just is suddenly like playing 22 minutes for the Lakers. But I think it's something that we should expect. Like the best version of this Lakers team, I think, is them figuring out how to effectively go small, whether that's with DFS at the 5 or maybe LeBron at the 5. I think it will probably be both of them at the 5 in different like roles when they're going up and down the court. But I mean, from the win, the one thing that I think you see and you cannot like unsee is just in the playoffs when you have Luka bringing up the ball. Like, sure, you can throw a double at him, but then you have the supercomputer of LeBron James waiting on the side, and then he's just playing one. Like he has the advantage there, and Austin Reeves is running around. The offense is going to be so hard to scheme against because there are we're going to get into it. There are very few teams that are going to be able to guard this Lakers team straight up. But at the same time, I think the way you beat them is very clear. You got to destroy them on the boards, which won't be very hard, and that you got to cause turnovers and hope that they're not shooting very well, which I think there are some teams in the league right now that aren't as easy to like come up with the formula to beat them in a 7-game series. But boy, I would not want to play these guys
I feel like the
playoffs.
X factor too for the Lakers, at least this last month, and given how old he is, we'll see if it continues, but given his overall track record of his career, I kind of feel like it will, is LeBron looks like a top 3 player for like a month now. Like this version of LeBron who's shooting 40% from 3, who has every read, he can finish at the rim. He looks athletic, like way more athletic. He looks faster than he did last year. Like, I don't know. He looks really good. And obviously we've seen he's had a couple nights earlier in the season where he looked really old, but right now he looks incredible. But so if they get this version the rest of the year, like I think sky's the limit.
Oh, I mean, sky's the limit just in general.
In general, yeah.
It's the LeBron thing from earlier in his career. It's the Jokic thing that we always talk about. It's the Giannis thing that we always talk about. When you have a guy that has the talent of a top 10 player all time. All these guys, who knows when it's all said and done where they're going to land. But each one of the guys that I just said has talent of a top 10 player all time, and that can just win you a playoff series. But I think it's really, I love what you said about LeBron there, because I feel like for the past, 15 years going, maybe not 15 years, more like 10, but going back to Kyrie, going to Anthony Davis coming in, even thinking about guys like, Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, we've always heard that like, oh yeah, this is the guy that like LeBron's going to turn over the keys to the offense to. And now it's just going to happen here, because none of those guys in the past could play high usage the way that I think we all kind of spoke about it, And now LeBron is really going to be able to embrace like an off-ball role that I think we've always dreamed of. And honestly, it's kind of because we have a guy who has a big enough ego to take the keys out of his fucking hands and put it in the car and turn it on. Whereas like, Anthony Davis was a big, it's hard to like really play through a guy like that, especially in the modern day NBA.
Yeah, I feel like one irony of LeBron too, and he's had partners like Kevin Love and Dwayne Wade in the past, but I feel like the irony is LeBron is such a good, like, get the rebound, look up the court, find the streaking guy down court. He was so good at finding Davis anytime Davis leaked out. But the irony is, like, LeBron, you're probably the best leak out player of all time. And it's like, you shouldn't be the passer in that situation. So I've noticed that even in last night's loss, there was a couple times where Luka grabbed the defensive rebound and he's just whipping his head up court to see if LeBron's leaking up to the other side, and he didn't throw it on a lot of them because he wasn't open. But I like that now they have that added element of like, LeBron is always going to be leaking, like he's always going to be looking. And I like that they actually have a player who can like, feasibly capitalize on that. I feel like it just makes him so dangerous. I don't want to make excuses. I feel like they shouldn't be losing to Utah, but I mean, Markkanen and Kessler looked massive out there, which was so weird. In the first game, it felt like, wow, the Lakers looked massive compared to all these Utah guards. It was like the size dynamic seemed to switch between the games, and obviously the Lakers weren't playing all their guys. And I don't know. I do think the Lakers are contenders. Should we switch to our contenders pretenders?
Yeah. Let's flow in there.
Yeah,
right
I guess
there.
last Luka impression though, I do feel like he looks a little hefty and slow out there. Like he's still getting a ton of space on his like step back and his crossovers, and he's still getting into the paint. But I don't know. Like it's not like he hasn't been effective, but he does look a little hefty to me. I don't know if you think.
I mean, I think that's partially to be expected. It's easy to forget he was out for over a month, mid-season, which is just like tough for any player to come back from. I did notice like that a little bit, but I also kind of chalk that up to being a new player in a new system and playing with your hero. You're
guess.
Playing with right next to LeBron James. You're gonna be a little bit more timid, at least the first couple games, before you really turn into the Luka Doncic, where it's like, give me the fucking ball, like. I'm running this shit. Let's go.
Actually, one other random observation that I've noticed watching the Lakers the last 2.5 years, I feel like LeBron is like a much better defender even at this age than people give him credit for overall. But I've noticed there's one weird quirk to LeBron's defense that's like horrendous, and it's defending the dunker spot. I feel like LeBron is one of the worst players at just like allowing the dunker spot player to like get a backdoor lob or a backdoor cut. And like it showed a lot last night, and it was a huge problem against Denver. Like I feel like LeBron theoretically should be amazing at guarding like Aaron Gordon sitting in the dunker spot. But I don't know if it's just like you feel like you need to double team Jokic, but last night you don't need to double team anyone on Utah. Like you can let Mark in an ISO. If he scores, he scores, but don't allow like the backdoor cuts like constantly.
No, that's a great call. I mean, I think that's something, and it honestly might be a product of playing with Anthony Davis for the last 5 years, where it's like you can kind of relax, leak off, relax a little bit because you've got Anthony Davis, and in some cases another center sitting behind you, so like they can kind of clean up your mess.
Yeah, because like when I watch the Lakers, like LeBron's out there, he's trying to contest shots, he's pointing out flaws, like he's an engaged defender, but it's this like one weird quirk where his brain stops working for like a possession. If it's like, oh, I'm defending the dunker spot, I don't have to do anything this possession. It's like, well, not everyone's Ben Simmons. They're gonna shoot it, man. Like you gotta stay locked in.
And that's like, I feel like guarding the guy in the dunker spot is like one of the like most like unforgiving places to make a mistake.
Yeah,
it's just like it's done. If you make a mistake and he gets
points.
the ball, he's gonna dunk the ball.
Yeah. Okay, so I have I didn't rank my contenders. I have 3 in each conference. So I have the Lakers as one of my West contenders. Fun notes about the Lakers. So one thing I harped on last season that I feel like it comes true every season, even though every year in the playoffs, teams are getting better at getting transition opportunities. And I know the old adage is like the playoffs is a half-court game. I still kind of believe that, especially the Lakers, a team that'll dictate tempo. So the Lakers... Obviously, these are season-long stats, but I think it's worth noting they're 8th in half-court offense, 10th in half-court defense, and where do you think they rank in transition defense?
Ooh, I don't know. Are they? I would imagine high from like season
high number because they're 30th.
Yeah.
They're bad. Yeah. But I do think overall, I like how much of a half-court profile they have defensively and offensively. Let's see where the half-court defense finishes without Anthony Davis.
Yeah, I mean, when you're subbing in Luka Doncic for Anthony Davis, it's got to get a lot better, right?
Yeah. But I do think the half-court offense will finish higher than 8th, where they are now.
Yeah, I mean, like, you look at where Dallas was in the half-court this season. They were 9th, like, most efficient offense in the half-court this season. And, I mean... Luka was out for a lot of that, but that still has a lot to do with Luka Doncic.
Yeah. All right, should I just run through my contenders then? I'm sure we have the same 6.
Let's go,
I don't know if
let's
you have
go
more
west
okay.
east. So I've got in the West, I have the Oklahoma City Thunder, who I mean, I think you just got to put in there with a bullet. The Lakers and the Lakers, the Nuggets, OKC, and you know, I'm wrestling with the Grizzlies. That's kind of my bubble team right there. But those are my 4 for the West that I have.
Yeah, I have the same 3: Nuggets, Thunder, Lakers. I don't have Memphis. I feel like Memphis. It's kind of weird because obviously we saw them go into the playoffs, win a playoff series, but I kind of feel like Memphis has kind of had a reset, and now this is like kind of like year 1 in a way. I don't know why I feel that way. It kind of feels like even though it's the same core, Bane, Morant, Jaren, it's like they spent so much time apart the last 2 years that to me it kind of feels like this is like a reset year. It's like year 1 of this core again. And I think also because the Jaren dynamic is a little bit different. I think, 2 years ago, Ja was clearly the best player of the 3. And I think now you can make an argument Jaren is the best player of the 3.
I mean, I agree with you. You can make an argument that this is a reset, but if you look at the season-long stats, they have the 6th best defensive rating. They have the 5th best offensive rating, which having both of those in the top 10, let alone top 6, is just like a classic mark of a contender. And there's a lot of new faces in here, but I think in general, they're like playmaking core, their core that is doing the yeoman's work of the scoring is basically the same people. You got Ja, you got Triple J, who's just like having the best year of his career right now, and then you got Bane, and then just their drafting has been unbelievable. I watched the Suns played the Grizzlies the other day, and I am just like shocked by how effective Jalen Wells is. Just as a defender, he looks like he's been in the NBA for 10 years, and he's been in the NBA for less than 10 months. I think the big man question is always like, how is Zach Edey going to do in the playoffs? It gives me a little bit of pause, but they have such depth. They have such like scoring, especially from the guard positions with Ja and Bane. I think if they can stay healthy in the playoffs, which they have never done in the Ja Morant era, I think they're going to make a very tough series for anyone that they play.
Yeah, I think with Edey, it's not will he play in the playoffs or will he not? I think it's more like, will he play against the Lakers? Yes. Mm-hmm. He'll get a ton of minutes, and he'll probably be super effective. If they have a first-round series against the Warriors and they're going crazy small ball and his rebounding and putbacks aren't enough to offset the amount of damage he's doing with them switching and stuff, maybe he doesn't play.
And that's
he might
the
be
thing
one
I
of
like
those
about
players.
him.
Yeah, I like that too. I don't think that's a negative either.
They can win in a lot of different ways. Like if the Lakers do end up, just destroying a Zach Edey on a switch, then you can just scrap all that. Say, Jaren, they're playing small ball. You're gonna be our 5, and then they don't really surrender any size at all because they can just throw in like a Santi Aldama who has had a pretty good season. I feel like the guys keep coming and coming and coming with the Grizzlies.
And I will say, I obviously 1 game sample size. I did go to Memphis Lakers earlier in the year when Anthony Davis was playing, and Jaren had a fantastic game. Jaren has added like a perimeter drive game he didn't have before that with his size and athleticism and his kind of like heft is like really effective, especially against teams like that.
And I feel like he had lost his confidence in his jump shot for a couple years, and that seems like, for the most part, back to at least like Draymond levels of like, I'm so confident. I'll take this 3, and I'm not worried about like missing it or anything. This is not a Ben Simmons situation.
No, I think the difference is like before Jaren was such an off the ball player in the half court where it's like dunker spot or spacing, where it's now like, hey, you can run offense through me because I can create driving lanes, I can create shots. I'm not just the supporting cast. I'm not just supercharged Jabari Smith. I'm like a star now. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think one team that we have to address that neither one of us have in this group is the Houston Rockets. They're still number 3 in the West, even though they've had quite a slide. I didn't have them in this group because I'm looking at their last 10 games. Before last night when they had played my Phoenix Suns, they were on an 8-game losing streak. And a lot of that has to do with not having Fred Van Vliet in the lineup over a lot of those games. And I pretty much come down to, I believe in the defense, but I don't think in a playoff setting the offense can keep up at this point in a lot of their players' development. Is that pretty much your sentiment on the Rockets?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where it's like you hate to boil basketball down to simple terms, but like, are you going to take the team with Şengün or the team with SGA? Are you going to take the team with whose best scorer is
Luka Doncic?
Yeah, like or are you going to take like Jokic? Yeah, I think that's just hard. It's just so hard to picture a team with Luka, Jokic, LeBron, or even Memphis. I would say I would probably choose Memphis over Houston. And I also, the part that Houston is like, it's fun to watch them, and I joked about this on the pod a couple times this year, but like watch a Houston game and there's always a 3 or 4 minute part of the game where their entire offense is Amen Thompson, jump as high as you can and just make a crazy finish at the rim. And I just kind of refuse to believe those 4-minute stretches are going to work in the playoffs. Even as good as Amen has been, it's just been bad offense that's working.
It's very matchup dependent. Like you can't see that working against the Thunder. You can't see that working against the Grizzlies. You probably can't even see that working against the Nuggets.
And I think also these rock fight teams like Rockets, like I think we've seen in the last 8 years, we'll have teams like, Harden's Rockets or LeBron's Cavs, where, in the regular season, they don't profile as these fantastic defenses, but you get to the playoffs, the physicality ratchets up, the effort level ratchets up, and they're like able to go rock fight mode with the teams that have been rock fighting all year, and it kind of like takes away a big edge the rock fight teams have had.
Yeah, that's a great point too, because the Houston Rockets are a young team, and the teams that usually can ratchet it up are older, the veteran-laden teams that know when to safe it and know when to put their pedal to the metal.
Yeah, I feel like the only team that wouldn't go rock fight mode with them is the Nuggets, but the Nuggets seem to be the team that's like immune to rock fight. I mean, obviously, Minnesota last year really took it to them, but I feel like Jokic is like unfazed by that.
Yeah, that's a level of size that I don't think anyone other than the Dallas Mavericks really can offer. Yeah. And they obviously can't offer it right now either because their entire roster is injured. The one Western Conference team that we really haven't spent very much time on is the Oklahoma City Thunder. Do you have anything to say about the Oklahoma City Thunder?
Yeah, so the Thunder are 5th in half-court offense, number 2 in transition defense, number 1 in half-court offense. The Thunder have done an amazing job, but even with the limitations of their bigs, because obviously Chet hasn't been playing like all year, of just keeping guys out of the paint, which has been their real strategy. I'm a little worried about how they match up with the Lakers in particular, but I kind of like them against every other team in the conference.
You know, I gotta say, James, I've been thinking about it a lot, especially this Lakers Thunder, and I kind of peeked off it for that one game, but I gotta say I'm back in on just the Thunder being I'm getting a phone call in my ears right now. I am back in on OKC being my number one team with a bullet. I think the stats just like bear it out so much that like not only is OKC the best defensive team in the league, but they're one of the great regular season defensive teams of all time.
Yeah.
They're right now in the half court, they are allowing 87.3 points per play, which is like almost 6 points better than the next team in the league. And that's
I feel like to
the
your point,
most
Patrick,
percentage of plays.
This team is basically the 04 Pistons. Like profiling relative to the league they're in, they are better than the 04 Pistons on defense in the regular season, and they have SGA on offense.
And they have Chet. Chet is back now. Yeah,
it's pretty good. Yeah.
J-Dub's great. I just think, and the thing about the Lakers matchup with them is like they're so disruptive on the perimeter that they're going to turn over a lot of teams just to a point where it's like unsustainable. And when you've got a guy like Luka, the great thing about Luka is you just kind of can pass less. So there aren't as many opportunities. But I think the size down low with Hartenstein, with Chet, it's going to prove to be, I think, hard to overcome with the Lakers. And then the other thing that we're always worried about with the Lakers is just like the perimeter defense. And I don't know what they're going to have to throw at Shea in a series
it's
like
gonna be
that.
tough. No, I definitely am with you. I have Thunder number one. The only reason I had the Lakers as the team that I'm worried about if I'm the Thunder is like I just don't like that. Even though I have so many talented defenders out there, they're all so small compared to those Lakers, Luka and LeBron. Mm-hmm. But I mean, on the flip side, I don't like the Lakers playing the Nuggets. I think that heavily favors the Nuggets.
We should slide into the Nuggets. The Nuggets have really kind of put their foot on the throat of the West, and they're like, hey, we won the championship 2 years ago, and we still have the best guy in the world.
Yeah, and last season we took a team that we matched up with just horribly all the way to 7, and if our shooters didn't go cold, we would have won Game 7.
Literally.
Yeah.
And honestly, it shouldn't have even got to Game 7. That was such a weird, crazy
They should have won. They were better. The Nuggets were fucking awesome last year. They should have won.
You remember the Gobert game where like Gobert didn't even play? He was like having a child, and then the Timberwolves just blew them out anyways. It was like the playoffs can be weird sometimes. But yeah, I was looking at. Do you know the Nuggets? They have the second most effective half court offense in the NBA this season, and the third most effective offense in transition this season. Like, that is just filthy stuff from Jokic.
Yeah, the Nuggets, I feel like, could be the team that because I feel like, in the national media and in the foul trouble media, we haven't really talked about them at all this year outside of the first week where we said we were kind of concerned. I mean, it's just when you have Jokic, it just makes everything work around the Jokic ecosystem.
Yeah, you also look at their lineup data, and like Jamal Murray's coming on right now. He had 55 points last night, which like that's been a big like concern trolley thing that the national media has been doing. But like,
and Jamal Murray's been pretty good for like a month now.
Yeah, since Christmas, he's pretty much been Jamal Murray.
Yeah.
But like lineups with at least 300 possessions together. The Denver Nuggets have 3 of the top 6 offensive lineups in the entire NBA. They are a super elite team, and I think I think we starting today we are going to treat them like that, and I think the rest of the NBA media in general should start doing that as well.
Yeah, I mean, big concern for the Nuggets, obviously. Same thing that hurt them last year in the playoffs, though, is the non-Jokic minutes are going to be They're going to be bad. They're going to be really bad in those non-Jokic minutes. And is Jokic going to play 44 minutes a game, 42 minutes a game? Like,
definitely over 40.
That's the thing. I don't think Jokic like I don't know if I'm not understanding, but why are you even ever sitting him in a game that's close? I would just if a game was ever close, I would not sit him unless I had a cushion.
I don't because maybe it's because Mike Malone knows Jokic's wife or something and just wants to have him live a couple more years. But yeah, no, I get what you're saying. It's just like the drop off is so dramatic. But yeah, I mean, we're going to see. I mean, I know you don't love this for them, but I'm super excited to see what Westbrook and Jokic look like together in the playoffs. I think being able to stagger Jokic with Westbrook and then Murray with the rest of their team is going to be a really interesting wrinkle in the playoffs this year because they have been so effective together, and maybe you can kind of counteract the classic Westbrook slide if you're buffering him with Nikola Jokic.
Yeah, I think the Westbrook conundrum on this team is really interesting because the weird thing about Westbrook that was so frustrating with the Lakers and even his Clippers stint was like when they got to the half court, he just like was he didn't do anything if he didn't have the ball. He would just stand there, but he's not a shooting threat. He wouldn't cut. On this Denver team, he's kind of turned into more of a cutter, and I don't know if that's just Jokic makes everyone into a cutter or he's finally kind of grown into the real role he needed to accept a couple years ago, but there is that version of Westbrook where if he's just like solely focused on like, you know, playing defense on one guy that I kind of like in the Thunder series, we're like, hey, Westbrook, please just focus 100% of your energy on ISO defending Shea. That's all we want.
Yeah, just for 5 minutes, dude. Just for 5 minutes. That's
like,
all we
need.
Please
be disruptive against Shea and don't worry about your contributions on offense. We're just going to run 100 Jokic isolations and it'll be fine.
I feel like there is a version of Westbrook where it's like, can you be just like the best version of Patrick Beverley ever? Like a little worse on defense, but a little better on offense. And just like really drive people insane on the other team.
Yeah. My worry though is if you see a Westbrook no Jokic lineup, I guarantee you it's going to get slaughtered.
Yeah, most likely that will
happen.
Get
annihilated like every Westbrook non-Jokic lineup in the last 5 years has in the playoffs.
But yeah, I mean, I think for the West, those are our contenders. Who do you have as contenders in the East?
I've got the Cavaliers.
Okay, I've got them too.
Boston Celtics.
Yep.
And I have a team, the New York Knicks, that I can't tell if I think they're like a shadow contender or I think they might low-key just suck right when the playoffs start.
I have the Knicks as a contender.
How do you feel about – do you have another team? Do you have Milwaukee or no?
I had Milwaukee as out, but I want to talk to you about them.
They're kind of like Memphis for you. They're half in, half out.
Yeah, those are the two teams that I was like, are they not? Because neither one of those, or at least the Bucks, do not qualify for the top 10 offense, top 10 defense. And neither do the Knicks, for that matter. Why do the Bucks
allow so many offensive rebounds?
I don't know.
This was the thing we talked about earlier that was a huge issue for them last year. Why are they allowing? What is going on with Giannis and Brook that they can't rebound the ball?
I have no answer for you, my friend. I can only if I'm a Bucks fan, all I can say is like, hey, they're just trying to get through the regular season without getting hurt. And I don't know, but you know, speaking about that, that's the idea of Kyle Kuzma right there. Is if you have Kyle Kuzma, you're playing him next to Giannis, next to Brook. That makes you so big with all plus rebounders down your front court that hopefully you can stop, you know, giving away all those offensive rebounds that like may in a perfect world you get. You become more of a rock fighty team like we were talking about before. And like more in the image of Giannis, which I always say, like, I think the best, the championship teams, the best teams take form of their best player and when they're most successful.
Yeah, I will say.
But I did end up with the Bucks out.
Yeah, the Bucks have a lot of profiles of a team that would be good. They're a good half-court offense. They're a good half-court defense, which is like kind of the first thing I'm looking at in a playoff team. But And I will say also for the Bucks, I'm going to make the argument against myself. The Bucks started 2-8 and then proceeded now are 29-24. So since 2-8, they're like 27-18 or 27-16. So like at 27-16, you think this team's a bona fide contender, but then you look at the teams they actually beat when they got it back together and the teams they lost to when they didn't have it initially, and it's like you lose to New York, you lose to Boston, you lose to Cleveland, you lose to Cleveland, you lose to Boston. Oh, and then you started winning when you played Toronto, Detroit, Chicago. Like, I don't know. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't want to say they're schedule made, but
it's like you can only beat the guys or the teams that you play, and you're an Eastern Conference team. But at the same time, like, I'd love to see you win really big games. Yeah. And, you know, I say that,
lost,
and
they
did win the in-season tournament.
They won the in-season tournament, but that is legitimately, Patrick, their one good win of the entire season. They haven't beaten Cleveland yet, 0-3. They haven't beaten Boston yet, right? Yeah, it looks like 0-3 versus Boston as well. Yeah. But like, let's like the Bucks, for example, they're in their last. No, the Bucks are just, I don't know, they're not that good. Like they went on here. Let me give you a stretch. They went on a stretch where they were 3 and they were like the Bucks went 8-1 in this stretch. But let me tell you the stretch. They beat Toronto, they beat San Antonio, they beat Orlando when they weren't healthy. They lose to the Knicks by 34. Ooh. They beat the Kings. They beat the Magic. They beat the Raptors. They beat the Sixers. They beat the Heat. It's like 8 super like you should win that. And the one time you played a good team, they blew the doors off you.
Yeah. Hey, well, that's the New York Knicks for you. That's the offensive juggernaut New York Knicks for you.
Yeah, but I think that's my problem with Milwaukee is like if you literally just go down their schedule page, anytime they play a top team, they get blown out and they're really good at beating the bad teams.
Yeah. Hey, they beat the Timberwolves last night.
A team that you have been so
I feel so
on.
Vindicated in my Timberwolves.
They're slowly though, like I feel like they were 500 for the first like couple, and now they're slowly pulling away from 500 in the green direction. Yeah. But probably end up in the low 40s, yeah.
I mean, they've lost 2 in a row, but 6-4 in their last 10. They have so much talent, and I think maybe if they got to this roster in a different way, I wouldn't have been so hard on them because they do have a really talented roster.
But you're just seeing New York Cat is just the big bodega is just flipping it up for you.
It's like, come on. Like, you guys were within a stone's throw of making the finals last year. But we're talking about the Eastern Conference right now. I think we've set out our worries about the Milwaukee Bucks. We don't have the Pacers in this group for a reason, but boy, have they rebounded. They're now 7 games over 500.
And they have a great offense. I don't like the Pacers. I think defensively, they had same issues I had with them going into last year, to be honest. Nothing's really changed for me there.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. So why are you trepidatious on including the New York Knicks in this group?
Okay, so the Knicks are the most confounding team to me. I can't tell, and I have like 2 feelings the way the Knicks are going to go. Like I feel like the Knicks were the talk of the town all offseason. Mm-hmm. But I feel like since the season has started and they just got absolutely annihilated in Game 1. We all know Game 1s of NBA seasons truly don't matter. They are not indicative of anything. But I feel like since they lost that first game, the Knicks have gone into like hiding mode.
Like, what do you mean by hiding mode?
Like, I feel like no one's talking about them. Like, Cat's been amazing. I feel like, we're getting the Cat highlights. Cat's having a renaissance. I feel like I haven't heard the word Jalen Brunson more than like 3 times in the last 4 months.
Well, you'll hear it when they announce the All-Star starters this weekend.
No, I know.
James.
I put him in my starting lineup too, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just out of the New York media cycle, but I feel like no one's been talking about them, and I feel like there's part of me that feels like the Knicks are going to come into the playoffs, and everyone's so focused on Cleveland and Boston trying to repeat that the Knicks are just like blowing through the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, and all of a sudden they're in the conference finals and they're hella switchable with all those Anunoby and Hart and Bridges, and they're doing just enough with Cat and his rebounding to keep it up down low, and the shooting is so good. But then part of me feels like the New York Knicks are 24th in half-court defense.
Yes, they are.
The New York Knicks have a center who I have never believed in as a guy who I think can mentally keep it together in a playoff series. And I feel like the New York Knicks are a little prone to like 2 bad shooting nights puts you at 2 losses in a playoff series.
Okay. As you know, I'm a big time Cat defender.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've already taken my victory lap in this episode about that. But yeah, the defensive numbers are questionable, but I think you just laid out the case right there. Is that when you look at the guys that are going to be playing big minutes for this team,
mean minutes?
All minutes for this team, yeah. Every single one of them is a proven playoff guy. They've done it in the playoffs, other than arguably Mikal Bridges. Love you, buddy, but you've had some issues in the playoffs. But we've seen it before. You've got of recent NBA history, one of the best playoff offensive engines that we have seen in recent first, second round playoff history in Jalen Brunson, who has been completely unlocked by this addition of Karl Anthony Towns. I think Mitchell Robinson is still in the cards to get him back. I think if you got him back, even if you were able to play him, 12, 15 minutes a night in the playoffs, I think that is a huge boon for the New York Knicks. And they have I think it's weird because for years, for the entire Tibbs era, we have thought of them as a defensive first team that has Jalen Brunson and has just enough offense to get by, and they've completely flipped that on their head this year. Now they are just flat out one of the best offensive teams in the league. They're a complete juggernaut. Seeing Jalen Brunson being able to play with a dominant, one of the best stretch fives we have ever seen, Karl Anthony Towns at the peak of his powers, it completely unlocks him. And I just have a hard time believing that once we get to the playoffs, once the nuts and bolts start getting tightened, the New York Knicks, headed up by Tom Thibodeau, aren't going to be able to answer the bell.
Yeah, I guess, you know what? I think the one thing that really works in the Knicks' favor is, like, we talked earlier about how, like, veteran teams can kind of really ratchet up their ability to, like, play high-effort defense. Normally you see that from a Tibbs regular season team, so I do think there is, like, the scenario where it's like, this is who their defense is, because Tibbs is not going to accept anything less than that even in the regular season. But I do think there is a scenario, too, where it's like, whoa, Josh Hart, Mikal Bridges, and Anunoby are, like, trying now.
Yeah, they look like we thought they were going to look now.
Now that Anunoby's allowed to, like, put his hands on guys' hips without getting foul calls, wow, he's really, like, slowing down these guys. I don't know. I think that's why I'm having a hard time with the Knicks. I have them in my contenders because the upside is so clearly there. But I just have this weird, I don't know. It's like I have a gut feeling that they're either going to be, like, roaring through the East or that they're going to flame out early. And I don't know which one I'm, like, leaning toward. I don't have, like, a middle outcome feeling at all in that. I don't know why.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But also, it's like, I think their floor is getting past round one.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I'm, like, low-key hoping just for the, like, intrigue of, like, I kind of love the, like, last year we all laughed at the Pacers going into that Knicks matchup, and then the Pacers, like, won, but obviously the Knicks started accumulating so many injuries. So there is a part of me that kind of wants to see the, like, Pacers being like, we deserve to win that, versus the Knicks being like, we were injured and that's why you won. Like, I kind of want to see that rematch in round one, but I think Indiana's not going to let that happen. But
yeah, probably not in round one, but we could see it later on.
Yeah,
I don't know. To that same, like, standpoint, Indiana is going to have to face Milwaukee once again,
they've
most
had a
likely.
lot of fun with the last 2 years.
Yeah, and I think if there's a healthy Giannis, he's definitely going to want to set the record straight of who owns Middle America.
Cleveland.
Yeah, Cleveland, and that's probably who we should talk about next. 44-10. Nobody saw them rocking into the All-Star break with a 81% winning percentage, which is just filthy stuff from Cleveland. Obviously they're contenders. They have 4 guys that are just like with a bullet. All-star caliber players. Obviously, not all of them made the All-Star team this year. But what what's going to make them different from last year and the year before? What differentiates the old Cavs to this Cavs, if anything?
Health.
Okay, yeah. I mean, that's pretty much a very simple and true answer right there.
Yeah, Garland wasn't himself last year. Obviously, Mitchell. I think Mitchell is just still criminally underrated. Like, he was averaging 30 a game against the Celtics. He was putting up so many points in their first round series as well.
Yeah, against Orlando, he was so
he
good.
Was unbelievable against the Magic. Just 30, 40 a game. And I think that's kind of what really helps Cleveland is his game-to-game consistency is, especially in playoff settings, going all the way back to when he was a member of the Jazz, is it's pretty proven at this point that this guy is not a underperformer in the playoffs. And I think Mobley, being so switchable, I think adding Hunter, more consistency out there. Do you think
they're going to be able to play giant?
Yeah,
with,
they'll be
with
giant.
DeAndre Hunter.
They'll be giant. Yeah, and I think Garland's shooting. I think what really makes them hard to defend is that both of their guards can dangerously pull up for three off the pick and roll. So you have to blitz the guards, which is what allows their bigs to kind of move in motion. I think just the shooting, it's almost like the Warriors effect of the Splash Brothers, where the shooting is so good on the perimeter and the shot creation is so good from one of the two guards that it opens up spacing with lineups that wouldn't normally have spacing because guys can move in open space.
Yeah, and they're also a relatively really good rebounding team, and I think they can be a better rebounding. They're kind of middle of the road, I guess. In the regular season, but I think in the playoffs, once it slows down, once it gets more half court, especially with the addition of Hunter, they're going to be able to really excel and beat teams on the glass.
And I love too that if they're healthy, you get Mobley and Allen together, then you get just Mobley, then you get just Allen, then you get them together again. And I love that staggering of the skill sets where it's there's not going to be a single minute where there's not a good rim protector out there for them.
Absolutely. Which I how many other teams can say that?
And I feel like it's a weird blessing for Cleveland that they have this weird thing where it's Garland and Mobley, great combo. Mitchell and Allen, great combo. And it's okay, well, we have two really good combos. Why don't we just always have one of those combos out there at all times? So at all times, they have both a good rim protection and a good pick and roll partner pairing.
It's like LA. It's like what we were talking about with the Lakers, except two all-stars instead of one all-NBA player.
Yeah. No, I like Cleveland. I think they're good. I mean, and I feel like it's unfair because, this first version of the Cavs, it was kind of weird. It's kind of what I talked about in the offseason. This Cleveland team, I feel like the moment they got put together with Mitchell, it was everyone was it's not going to work. It's not going to work. And then they were surprisingly really good the first year together. And they lose to the Knicks in a series where it's okay, the double big pairing seems a little dated. And then that was 2 years ago. And then last year, they were kind of, obviously the weird injuries with Garland. And they win in the first round. Obviously, they were supposed to win against the Magic. But, they got the playoff win. And then, they lose mostly because the Celtics were freaking awesome. But also,
they made that more of a series.
Way more of a series that it could, especially if they were fully healthy. And I feel like even after that, people were it's not going to work. It's not going to work. And I feel like this is the year where it's it is going to fucking work. They're awesome.
Yeah. I think it needs to be said in that series. Donovan Mitchell was the best player in that series when he was on the court. I know he missed a couple games that season or that series. But, I mean, I'm very all in on the Cavs. I think this is their best team in their team history without LeBron James on the roster. Yeah. So there's a lot to be excited about in Cleveland. And I think they have a real home court advantage, too, which they'll be able to take advantage of.
Question before we get to the Celtics. Because I feel like in the West, maybe I felt a little bit more strongly about this, but I kind of felt like the West, between my three contenders, there's this weird rock, paper, scissors where I was I don't think OKC wants to play the Lakers. I don't think Lakers want to play Denver. Do you have that for the East where it's I don't think the Knicks want to play this team. I don't think the Cavs want to play this team. Because I'm going to be honest, the team that we haven't talked about is the team that I think nobody wants to play.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I don't think anyone wants to play the Celtics. We have barely talked about the Celtics this season.
I feel like if I'm the Celtics, it's I look at the New York Knicks, it's it's like if the Knicks were looking in the Celtics mirror, they just see a more handsome version of themselves.
Yeah, 100%. And if you're the Celtics, it's like we have 4 guys in our starting lineup that I feel really good about guarding Jalen Brunson one-on-one. And then you can put Al Horford on Cat. I feel really good about that. You can put Kristaps on Cat. I mean, I don't think the Knicks want any part of the Celtics.
Yeah, and I feel like... Sorry, go ahead.
No. It's just with the Cavaliers too. The matchups are a little worse for the Celtics, but I mean, you're bona fide. You're the champs. Like I don't think the Celtics. I think the Celtics, if they had their choice between the Knicks and the Cavs and even and the Bucks, they would choose the Bucks or the Knicks before they choose the Cavs.
I feel like
but I don't think they're losing sleep.
The Knicks' problem to me is like they're just the Celtics they're not as good. Like
yes.
They've played the Celtics twice this year, and they got their doors just ripped off the hinges in both games.
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about teams that I think the Celtics don't want to play, there's one team in the league, and it's the Oklahoma City Thunder. Because
I know they want to play Denver, but let's see if they actually do when Jokic is playing. The Celtics will not shut up about how much they want to play Denver again every time they face off and they lose again. But
I mean, I definitely like that matchup for the Celtics better than I like the OKC matchup. Like, I think if you have a healthy Kristaps, that's a good person to put on a guy like Jokic. If as much as anyone is a good matchup to put on Jokic. But yeah, I mean, in my world, the Celtics are still the favorite to win the championship. They still have the most talented team in the NBA, and their team it's all been through internal development. But in my eyes, their team has just gotten better this year. They've had another year together. I think you feel even better about like Peyton Pritchard minutes, Sam Hauser minutes, Luke Cornett minutes if it has to get there. They're just so damn deep. I think Jason Tatum has a real chip on his shoulder and he deserves it, which is like you've heard a lot about it with Jalen Hurts this week of like how rare it is for a team to win and then their best player or their most important player has like a honest chip on their shoulder. I think Jason Tatum has that, especially after the Olympic stuff this summer. And yeah, I mean, I don't want to face the Celtics if I'm any team in this league.
Yeah, I think all of the Celtics guards I feel like have been a bit worse this year. Obviously, Kristaps, the big injury question, but I do think the bench pieces are great. Tatum, I feel like, has been really solid. Brown's shot selection is kind of wild again.
He be doing that.
Yeah, this seems like a version of the Celtics that I don't know. I love them against the Knicks. I mean, I do think the Cavs could beat them, to be honest. I do think the Cavs could beat them, but I don't know how to say it. I feel like if like you put the Heat from 3 years ago against this Celtics team, you'd see that random Celtics series where they melt down. Mm-hmm. I don't know why.
Yeah, potentially.
Because I feel like, to me, this is still my East favorite, but I do feel like there is that weird, like, why did the Celtics suck right now for no reason?
Yeah.
But maybe
they get
part of that
stuck
is
in the mud.
I mean, the thing with the Celtics that is they've proven they can beat anybody. They've beaten the Cavs. You know, they've beaten all the other contenders. They beat the Knicks. Like, and I do feel like some of these Celtics losses are a little like, is their foot on the gas? You know, how much is their foot on the gas? Like, obviously, like they lost to the Lakers when they weren't playing people, but like, I don't know, like that just happens sometimes NBA regular seasons.
100%. And for a team like this Celtics team that has been deep in the playoffs year after literally every year of Jason Tatum's career, like it's tough to, you know, get up for a January game in frickin' Washington DC.
Yeah.
But yeah, you look at their like profile, they have the 5th best defensive rating, they have the 4th best offensive rating in the league, and the 3rd best net rating adjusted. Like the Boston Celtics, like they cannot be forgotten. They are here. They should be the favorite. They are the favorite. And with all that being said, there's a good chance they get knocked off the perch because the NBA is really, really talented this year. I think you can make the argument that it might be more talented than it's ever been.
Yep. So, Patrick, what is your dream finals matchup? Because I have one that I think would just be too funny, and I think you know what it is.
Yeah, I mean, dream finals matchup for the vibes, I would love.
How funny would a Lakers
Celtics.
Cavs?
Oh, Lakers Cavs is
How
good
funny would
too.
Lakers Cavs be?
Oh my God, no, I can't watch that.
It would be like the most heartbreaking like matchup ever.
I know, yeah.
Like, how much would it hurt Cleveland fans if LeBron beat them in the finals as a Laker? Like,
yeah,
he did to the Heat, like he did to the Heat.
It's like LeBron beats them as a Laker, and then he retires, and it's like all those Cavs fans just have to go right back to the woodshed arguing that LeBron is better than Jordan after he rips out their own hearts. Yeah, that's rough. No, I mean, come on, man. If I could, of the contenders that we've laid out, for basketball reasons, I would love to see OKC versus Boston. For like podcast reasons, give me Lakers, Celtics. Come on.
Yeah, Lakers. Well, I will say one matchup, just because I feel like it's under the radar how much it seems to really get at the Celtics, is they could not beat. I know they did it, I think, last year, regular season. They've done it this year for sure, but like, I feel like the Nuggets are like kind of like this team that they have like a real bone to pick with, and I feel like a Celtics Nuggets finals could be a lot of fun too.
Oh yeah, the last two champs. I don't even know. I mean, I guess Warriors Cavs would be the last time we had that.
It's like Lakers Celtics in 2009 after Celtics won in 2007, Lakers won in 2008. We've had that. I think that was the last time we've had that kind of run around happen.
Even a little bit more fun than that, I would argue, because we haven't seen them actually play each other.
Yeah.
In the playoffs yet. Yeah, there are so many good combos. I mean, at the same time, like, I would love like a Knicks Lakers, like that would be a lot of fun. Even like I don't know, the other a Bucks. You have a dream run from Giannis, and you get like I don't know. I mean, the NBA would shit themselves if this was the case, but if you had like a Bucks versus OKC final, I think that would be really fun.
The in-season tournament has meaning.
Yeah. Oh, actually, the NBA might like it for that one reason.
Okay, Patrick. I guess before we go with pretenders, contenders, let's just each name a team that we think could make that surprise. I feel like every other year, not every year, but every other year, it feels like there's one team that ends up in the conference finals, and we're like, what? Last year it was the Pacers. 3 years ago it was the Hawks. I think for some people, maybe that Lakers team that did it like 2 years ago would have qualified for this. Do you have a team that you're like, you know what? Maybe they make the fluky. Maybe they take advantage of an injury. Maybe the path makes sense. They get there.
I mean, I think the Bucks definitely qualify for that. Even though we've already talked. Who do you have?
This team has looked like a train wreck for about a month and a half now. I feel like if the Orlando Magic get the 6th seed, could they maybe do a surprise? They look so good. They've looked so good at certain points the last 2 years. Like, they've looked like a real, genuine contender for like short stretches at the last 2 seasons.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm with you. Like, that would be a lot of fun. I could kind of see it. I mean, I think other teams that are like kind of in this realm is like, could Minnesota, just like Ants going on a heater, they go on a deep run in the playoffs. Julius Randle just like randomly like thinks he's playing against the Hawks in the playoffs.
Yeah, like I don't know, like if you're Cleveland, if you're Boston or New York, and it's like, do you want to play Detroit, Miami, or Orlando? I don't think anyone is signing up to play Orlando.
Yeah, no, I don't think anyone would want to play Orlando but I don't think they don't want to play Orlando because they think they're going to lose. But it's like, do you want to get punched in the face for 6 games? Or do you just want to play basketball? I mean, the other two
Pistons
teams
have Isaiah Stewart. Getting punched in the face is liable at any time.
That's true. Hey, my Pistons, man. My Pistons, preseason, I was saying I could see them making making a run at the playoffs. I think they're a lock for the 6th seed at this point. But there's 2 other teams that I think need to be in this conversation for teams that could just like, I don't know, click. And they're 2 teams that we've talked about a lot recently. I think it's the Dallas Mavericks.
Yeah, I agree.
And the Golden State Warriors.
Don't agree.
You know, come on. What did Jimmy do to you?
No, I'm all in with Jimmy and Steph. I think that's great. I just never liked the supporting cast at the beginning of the year. I still don't like the supporting cast around Jimmy and Steph, and I feel like they're too far down the standings, and I just don't like that they're going to have to start out playing OKC most likely.
Yeah, hey, it's not going to happen with Golden State unless they went on a little run to end this season, which, like,
did you read that thing, though, that apparently Golden State was, like, kind of out on their own season, and then they beat the Thunder, and they were like, we're back?
I mean, I didn't read that, but it makes sense by all the – I mean, we talked about it a couple weeks ago. Draymond and Steph and Steve Kerr were all saying, like, yeah, we're not going to make a big move. We don't need to, like – shatter the team's future. But the reason I say the Golden State Warriors is they have had a top defense all season, and then they just subbed in Jimmy Butler, who has like a reason to be Jimmy Butler this year, and they still have Steph Curry, who we saw what he did in the Olympics. Like, I think I don't know, it could get crazy. I don't think it's going to happen. And then the Dallas Mavericks, there is about as good of a chance that they go on a run and get a couple rounds deep in the playoffs as a chance that they miss the playoffs entirely.
I agree. I think the Mavericks have a huge upside right now if they get healthy.
I don't know how much of that first half with Anthony Davis that you saw, but they looked scary. Like, I see the vision.
It's like would you rather have Mobley and Allen or Davis and Lively right now?
Yeah.
Like, I think right now, as good as those guys have been, I still think Anthony Davis is head and shoulders the best player out of the 4 of them. So, I mean, I like 100%. The defensive upside. We've seen the 2020, Anthony Davis. Yeah, it's clunky on offense when he plays next to a big, but the defense as a result is just incredible.
And not to mention, and we saw it last night, Kyrie Irving is still Kyrie Irving. He's very, very good at basketball.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Like, if the Mavericks were like the 6th seed right now, and it was like, hey, you're gonna play Memphis in round 1, like, I don't think I guarantee a win, but I like your odds.
But yeah, the scary thing for Mavericks fans is they are currently 8th, and they are only a game and a half ahead of the Warriors for 10th seed, and then they're like 2.5 games ahead of the Suns, who I don't think they have to worry about too much, but it's not that much, and they're going to be without Davis for at least a month going forward, and they have a pretty tough schedule over the rest of this month.
Yeah, I think it's worth noting as we talk about teams that could rise and fall up the standings. Hardest schedules, top 5. Phoenix has the hardest schedule remaining, then Denver, then Memphis, then the Lakers, then the Bucks. Wow, a lot of contenders. Are they contenders, Patrick? Because they've been feasting off easy schedules. Have we been schedule pilled? Golden State, for the record, 20th easy schedule left, so they've got a relatively easy road. They've got 2 games against the Knicks, against the Nuggets, but they still have their Pels, their Hornets. I mean, Pels is tougher for all the teams that still have to play them, but
Golden State is 3.5 games behind the Clippers for the 6th seed.
They could get it.
Like, they could get it. They could get there. Like, I don't know. I believe it. And they have 3 all-time playoff risers. Or maybe not a riser for Steph, but he's an all-time player.
Yeah. Yeah, one fun note when I was doing research for this episode, Patrick, statistically speaking, if you go off expected field goal percentage solely based off where you're shooting from, the team with the worst percentage, the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah, I believe it.
That's your boys.
We're bad. We're bad, man.
You're back
it's
or you're
tough.
bad?
No, we are not back. We're bad.
You're back to shooting deep 2s. You guys are the ultimate throwback squad.
Oh, dude.
Kevin Durant would have been an awesome player in 2004.
Yeah, he really would have been. Same with Devin. My thing,
you guys plucked out these like 2005 like all world shot creating like ISO guys.
Tyus Jones would have been perfect. Like he wouldn't have needed to shoot at all.
No, this Phoenix team would have ran away with the NBA in 1998.
Yeah, dude. My thing with the Suns, can I have a quick Suns corner?
Yeah.
Right now, I'm like ready to blow my brains out about the Suns is that they will not bench Tyus Jones. Tyus Jones has been he's like the worst defender in the NBA. When we signed him this offseason, I was like, oh, wow, like this is great. He's going to leave in the offseason because he's going to get like the mid-level because he's going to be so featured on this team. There is no freaking way that he makes more than the minimum next season because he is such a minus on defense against starting lineups. It is so rough to watch.
That's the Budenholzer system. You put in a great system over the summer, and then when other teams adjust to it, you don't adjust. You just do, but you don't adjust at all, ever. That was a huge problem with the Bucks the whole time he was their coach. They never changed anything they did.
And it's like, not only that, like now he started playing after all season, Bol completely buried on the bench. After all season, the last 2 games, he decided to put him in the starting lineup, and he's actually been okay. But it's like, dude, we've needed length and size all season. And I mean, I don't think Bol belongs in the starting lineup, but he belonged in the rotation because we've been playing a bunch of tiny people all year. It's just, I don't know. I'm just trying to enjoy my last 2 months of KD, and then we're just gonna move forward, and it's gonna be fine. That's right. My Suns corner.
Should we get to best take, worst take?
Yeah, let's get to best take, worst take.
All right, my best take of the week goes to LeBron James talking about Patrick Dumont. Quote, when a clown moves into the palace, he doesn't become a king. The palace becomes a circus.
Ooh,
and I feel like somehow Patrick Dumont, the owner of the Mavericks, has looked worse than Nico Harrison through like 2 weeks of post-Luka trade. I don't know if you feel the same way. I feel like it's getting to that point.
I mean, he hasn't looked good, but I think it's hard to look as bad as Nico Harrison has looked. The guy that's standing in front of a microphone with a smile and like a grin that he like got one over on the NBA by cashing in on Luka Doncic. But yeah, that is a great quote.
Well, I feel like Nico's kind of been like, yeah, we feel like with Anthony Davis, we can be contenders right now. Maybe we won't be as good 4 years from now, but I think our ceiling is higher right now. And then Patrick Dumont is like, Luka's fat.
Hey, at least he has a real reason.
Yeah.
My best take of the week went to Jason Tatum, who, I've always had a huge
problem. Is he the first
problem.
time on best or worst?
I feel like maybe
I don't think he's ever said anything so good or so bad he's ever been here. He's so neutral. He's such a neutral guy.
Yeah, he usually doesn't say much. But one big problem that I've always had with Jason Tatum is obviously he is the star player of the Boston Celtics, and he has been so like Kobe coded his whole career. He's done the texting Kobe's old number and posting the screenshots, one of the cringiest things ever. Especially like, can you imagine if like a Red Sox player was texting Babe Ruth's old number?
Derek Jeter, hit me up, man.
Yeah, Derek Jeter, like, love you, man. But this week he was asked, because of how big of a Kobe Bryant fan he was, what it meant to him to see Luka Doncic traded to the Lakers. And he was completely offended by it. And I loved it. I did not think he had it in him. And he said, yeah, I don't really watch the Lakers play. A lot of kids watch the Celtics play. I'm not a little kid anymore, so I don't really watch the Lakers play. I'm a big Celtics fan. And he had a lot of attitude. He had a lot of FU to it. It's less about the quote, more about the attitude. And we could see this matchup in the finals. And I like that Jason Tatum is laying the groundwork for we don't like them. I don't care if Kobe played there. I don't care if he was my hero. I am the Celtics' best player.
Yeah, I feel like also Tatum probably has a little extra grind with Luka because it has to be a weird dynamic when yes you're not playing well but you're like winning the championship in dominant fashion and all you're hearing is the other team's player is way better than you.
Yeah, well, and the guy, like, not only that, but he goes to your childhood favorite team.
Yeah.
Is traded by all of the kind of most important people in Kobe Bryant's career, who at least ran his like business operations. What do you have as worst take?
I got Patrick Dumont.
Let's go. He's here.
Quote, I think everyone's seen this, but if you look at the greats in the league, the people you and I grew up with, Jordan, Bird, Kobe, Shaq, they worked really hard every day with a singular focus to win. If you don't have it, it doesn't work. You shouldn't be part of the Dallas Mavericks. Shaq?
Yeah, that's the winner, I'll tell you right now.
Shaq was fatter than Luka.
Yeah. He wouldn't work on his free throws. He would refuse. He
Shaq,
refused
who openly
Rick Barry.
Goes on podcasts and is just like, I didn't work out over the summer. I play my way into shape. I knew Kobe was working out so much that I didn't really have to. He kind of worked out for both of us.
Yeah. No, that's a
this
bad
guy
one.
doesn't watch basketball.
No, he doesn't. He's just trying to make a casino in Dallas. My worst take of the week, I kind of had a tough time finding a good one. This one's okay. It goes to Stephen A. Smith. They were talking about the Lakers. He was talking with Brian Windhorst, and the Brian Windhorst rebuttal is like good enough to be best take of the week as well. But Stephen A. said, all you need is somebody to defend and rebound. Why not look at Dwight Howard? He never looks out of shape at all. Dwight Howard has been out of the league since 2022. What the hell are you talking about, Stephen A. Smith? Dwight Howard, really nice guy. Really nice guy. I like Dwight Howard. But what the hell are you talking about? Dwight Howard is not going to be the Lakers center this year. And Brian Windhorst had the hilarious response of, DeMarcus Cousins is playing in Mongolia. Why don't you call him? Are you being serious right now, Stephen A.?
I feel like, I will say to be fair to Stephen A., because I saw him getting killed, but I didn't realize it's been that long since Dwight last played an NBA game.
It's been a second.
It's been a second. Yeah. No, I mean, I guess me and Stephen A., not real ball knowers.
Yeah. You're a real ball knower. And Stephen A. is too. It's just like, come on, man. Like, think about what you're saying. You.
Yeah. All right, I might have a worse take. Patrick.
Ooh. What is it?
You can tell me if this is automatically a worse take. I think it will be in lieu of yours. Is 3 years retirement Dwight really that much worse than Alex Len?
I think so.
I think he can jump higher.
Yeah, he probably can jump higher than Alex Len. I think Alex Len is going to. I mean, obviously, Alex Len was brought in to be the backup center.
Alex Len looked more out of place in Lakers yellow than Luka did.
But like, he comes in from being on the Kings for the last 4 years, and like has to fly straight into Utah and play with a bunch of people he's probably barely even knows.
Yeah, no, the vibe was weird in that. Dalton Connect looks so like he didn't want to be there.
Yeah. Well,
which I get, because you know for a fact they're going to trade you this summer, but...
I also feel like the Jazz, after they got just straight up embarrassed earlier this week, they really wanted that game, and they played their hearts out, and I think it was just as much the Lakers looking messy and like they were a new team built around a new star as the Jazz saying, fuck you guys, like, we want to win this game. We're at home. Let's do this.
Yeah. All right. And hot streak shooting slump.
Hot streak shooting slump. The part of the program where we decide if our last 7 days we were on a hot streak or shooting slump in life. James, how you feeling?
I feel like I'm on a hot streak. You know, the Super Bowl sucked, but I had a great time. I had a lot of friends over. The game ended so early that we ended up going out to the bars afterward, and then the night went a little too long for a Sunday night heading into a workday Monday, but we had fun with my brother, some other friends, my girlfriend and stuff. But Yeah, I mean, good week. I feel like the excitement of that first Luka-Lakers game was really like even though the game itself was kind of just such a blowout, it was so fun to see like LeBron and Luka, and I feel like it's been really funny. Everyone's like, wow, Luka smiled for the first time in his life.
Hey, he smiles at Devin Booker.
Yeah. No, I feel like just a good week. I'm happy. I feel like the NBA is like officially back in a real powerful way. Like in a really, really strong way right now.
James, this is also your time. What are your Super Bowl takes? Do you have anything? Like,
yeah, the Eagles are good, man.
That I felt bad. Like Patrick Mahomes, he just like was running for his life the whole game. I was getting flashbacks of Brady in a couple of Super Bowls against the Giants.
I think it's crazy too because people are like, well, Tom Brady, when he lost the Super Bowls, he didn't get blown out. Sure, he didn't get blown out in the 2007 Super Bowl, but he scored 14 points. He basically did the exact same thing. The difference, as always with these Tom Brady teams, is that the Patriots had a really good defense.
Yep.
It's so
100%.
weird that people are not comparing the offensive performances, but compare the whole team performances. But I will say, to be fair, Tom Brady's not throwing pick sixes, so maybe I'm the idiot here. I'm gonna cool my take down. I'm gonna cool down my take a little bit.
Like Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady are such different players, though. Like,
yeah,
of course Tom Brady doesn't throw interceptions like that, but like, part of that gambling, part of that like mindset is what makes Patrick Mahomes so great. And I think like kind of lopsided games are just kind of part of that, as well as just like the Eagles were the better team.
The Eagles pass rush was amazing. Also, yeah, like speaking of stupid plays, Tom Brady in the 2011 Super Bowl had like one of the worst safeties you've ever seen. He just threw the ball like 100 yards downfield with no one over there in the end zone and got a safety.
Yeah. I gotta admit, I was kind of getting the ick from Tom Brady, and I'm a big Tom Brady lover. Of in the second half of that game, how he would just not shut up about his Super Bowl losses. I'm like, please talk about like literally anything else other than yourself for like 2 seconds, Tom. Yeah.
For the record, I like Tom Brady. I just think sometimes the Mahomes criticism is a little ridiculous. Like he was running for his life on every play.
Yeah. Well, and as we say with the LeBron stuff, it's like he got to the fucking Super Bowl. Like that in itself is a huge accomplishment that like 0.1% of quarterbacks ever are able to achieve. I am also on a hot streak.
Let's go.
Yeah. I had randomly, I had Thursday and Friday off last week. So I had like a nice meaty 4-day weekend. I had so much fun doing our trade deadline live stream. If you haven't seen that, if you want to get like our full takes and just us kind of being silly with a bunch of special guests
and reacting to a couple trades in real time.
Yeah, reacting to a couple trades in real time. You can check that out on our YouTube. I feel like we'll probably do more of those in the future. But yeah, just that Super Bowl was fun. I made some like jalapeno poppers and I wrapped them. My fiance does not eat pork, so we tried wrapping them in beef bacon. I don't know if you've ever had beef bacon, but it was good. It's like I think it's a step up from turkey bacon, but still like a minor step down from pork bacon.
Yeah.
Nothing
beats bacon.
Nothing beats bacon. But yeah, that was fun. I just had like, it was a nice kind of restful thing. We got any big plans for Valentine's Day tomorrow?
Got a nice dinner res, it's going to be fun.
There we go. Me too. Well, I hope everyone enjoys their Valentine's Day. Whether you're, and All-Star weekend. I mean, it just does not stop. But we will be with you guys for the rest of the season, and we're gonna get into like a lot of playoff specific stuff. We're gonna really dive into the matchups for different teams. It is going to be an awesome rest of the season. So enjoy your All-Star weekend. Enjoy your Valentine's Day. James, you got anything for him?
Have a good one, guys. Peace.